Hey, this is Meridith, Elliott, Powell, and welcome to Sales Logic, the show where we dive into the strategies, discuss the steps, everything that you need to know to well sell logically and effectively as we move through 2021. And I am here with my co-host, Mark Hunter. Hey, Mark.
Hey, it is great to co-host with you. In fact, you know what? This is kind of good. This is now Saturday morning. Saturday mornings might become our time to do Sales Logic. We don't know. Who knows? Who knows?
Can't think of a better time to talk about sales. We have a robust show for you today. We're going to dive into some really, really good topics. I'm going to let Mark introduce those topics, but I'll kick off by sort of giving you an idea of exactly how the show works. Now, probably many of you tune in every single week, so you know the format, but just for those new listeners, this show is always in 4 parts. We always have a hot topic of the week. And we always start the program with a listener question. That's right. You can be active. You can be engaged. You can be a part of the show simply by submitting your question at our website, saleslogicpodcast.com. Again, saleslogicpodcast.com, or just stick it out there on social media with a hashtag SalesLogic. Then we highlight a book, something we're reading or have read and think would be of great value to you. And just because we want you to walk away with return on investment, we have a lightning round, strategies and steps you can put into place immediately. All right, Mark, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, hey, the topic we've got for this week is, I got to pull it up on my screen. That's funny. I didn't even have it on my screen. What does a great cadence consist of for engaging a prospect? That's what we're going to dive into. And it really came from the question I got. I got an email on Monday of this week from Mike in Chicago. And he was asking me what day and time is best for sending out an email for trying to get a meeting. So that's the question we're going to dive into. We got a great lightning round. Okay, I'll tease you with the lightning round. It's best secrets to engage a prospect. The book will keep as a secret. So, hey, let's dive into the question first. Mike from Chicago, what day and time is best for sending out an email for trying to get a meeting with a prospect, with a customer? Go.
Well, I don't know that there is a best and a foolproof date and time, but I do like to try to catch prospects at odd hours. Saturday morning is a great time because if you're dealing with the C-suite, a lot of times they'll spend time working on Saturday morning because they're not going to be as interrupted as much, and they're up early. I don't send emails late at night, but I often send them at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and often I'll get a response back from them. I do try to stay away from Mondays. That's a little bit of a packed day if I'm going to go early in the morning. And I do like late on a Friday afternoon.
See, you picked up on a couple things, and I'm gonna run with them. It really depends on the industry you're trying to get a meeting somebody with, and what level of position. I love sending emails at 6:30, 7 a.m. because most people start the day around 7:30 or 8 or so. And if I send that email around 6:30 or 7, it's probably going to be one of the first emails that they look at. So that's a great way to get, hey, I'm going to get the email read. But like you, I stay away from Monday mornings because Monday mornings, it's kind of a cluttered day. And I just don't think it's going to get that much of attention. I do want to pick up on that Friday afternoon and Saturday morning because I've used the Saturday morning technique for years and it works great, especially with senior level people because they don't stop working. On, they are all, hey, what are you and I doing? It's Saturday morning. We're doing that must make us part of the C-suite, right? Yeah. So I love reaching out to them. Friday afternoons is really kind of a mixed bag depending on the industry. Now, I like Saturday afternoons because many times what happens is people are just, they're kind of winding down and they'll kind of like kill time by looking through emails. So you can do a meeting. Flip side is there are some industries where Friday afternoon is not good. So it really kind of depends on the sequencing, the business flow of the industry.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I also think like a lot of times on a Friday afternoon, I'll call versus email just because a lot of times they're more likely to pick up the telephone. A lot of times the gatekeeper has checked out at that point. I don't interact with the gatekeeper typically on a Saturday morning. But you're making such a great point about the industry. that you're in and why that really matters. I work a lot in financial services, and I used to be a banker, and banks are closed at least one day a month. I mean, they've always got, there's always a holiday that they're mindful of. And depending on the size of the organization, if they're large, I don't call them on a holiday, but if they're a small credit union or a smaller bank, typically they're in the office working on those days. And I really use those holidays to call.
That picks up something else. I tell you what, the weeks that I love prospecting are the weeks of Thanksgiving and around Christmas and New Year's, because it's amazing how many schedules are different, how many schedules are changed. And I can pop an email out to somebody or call somebody. And it's amazing. They pick up. There's something magical about calling people on a Friday afternoon, because they're like shocked that you as a salesperson are actually out there. Hey, Larry Levine is chiming in. Good to hear from Larry out on the left coast. So it's great.
Yes. Yeah, Larry says he likes to make those calls on Saturdays and Sunday mornings. And I think you all are making such a great point. It says volumes about you. I mean, even if you don't get people, just leaving a message or sending an email, you're sending a signal that says, I work all the time. I'll be available when you want me to be available. And you're doing more to enhance your image.
Yeah. Now, I'll give you one caveat. If you're sending the email on a Saturday morning, it's not, hey, I want to get a meeting. You got to give them some value. Give them some meat. Give them something to chew on. That doesn't mean you send out a tome. That doesn't mean you send out a World Book Encyclopedia. But you got to send them a couple sentences of some meat that's going to get them really thinking. Then you can request the meeting. So, hey,
I just want to add one thing, and that is it too. If you're going to call on Saturday and Sunday, you need to be mindful of religious background. I do a lot of work with the Seventh-day Adventist healthcare systems, and I always stay away from Saturday. That's their Sabbath. I have a couple of executives that are very heavily Christian based, and Sunday morning is sacred. So even I would never expect them to answer, but it feels more respectful if I don't even bother to try and reach out, because they have set that time aside for family and for faith, and you need to respect that.
Well, and it's the same thing. I got a number of Jewish clients, and come Friday afternoons, I just know, you know what, if I haven't reached out to them by now, I'm not going to reach out to them until Sunday or Monday. And again, just respecting people. And I think that says something, because it understands, where they're coming from.
Exactly.
It just helps you. Say, hey, let's go ahead and jump into the topic, because the topic is a good one. What does a great cadence consist of for engaging a process? How do we build that stream of consciousness that's going to turn that lead into a customer?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple of things to consider here. Number one is you need a cadence. I mean, the very fact that you're going to have one interaction and you're going to close this are slim to none. But you also need to think about the fact that your cadence needs to be different if it's an inbound prospect versus an outbound prospect. And let me just clarify that really quickly, even though I'm sure everybody knows. But inbound means they have showed some interest. They're already one step closer to you. So that cadence is probably going to be a little stronger than my cadence for an outbound, where I'm just trying to gauge their interest and just get them to pay attention once.
I tell you what, you must be stealing my material. This is the, you have to have separate cadences. Inbound, it is speed. It is all about speed, because that person's got an itch. And if you wait for 2 days to itch it, you wait for 2 days to scratch the itch, you're stalking them. You got to return that call. You got to get on them right away. Outbound, you are nurturing, you're building, because they're not aware of you. And you have to be prepared. And I tell this time and time again, 2 lines I love to use. Don't start what you can't finish. If you can't deliver 15 to 20 steps in a cadence to somebody, don't even start with them, because I see too many people that make 1 or 2 calls and then they fade away. The other key piece that I love to share is the most valuable advice you'll get regarding prospecting is found in your shower, and it's found on that bottle of shampoo. Rinse and repeat. And right? I mean, rinse and repeat. Okay, we get the repeat. Now, what's the rinse? The rinse is, it's got to be a different message. You can't sit there and say, hey, I've sent this message to you 8 times. How come you're not responding? No, rinse means it's new shampoo in your hair. So you've got to put new messages out there. But the biggest thing is, don't start what you can't finish.
Yeah. I love this because I just declared February sales follow-up month. I just decided that I'm going to make it National Sales Follow-up Month. And the reason is because typically in January, we start off with our prospect list. We're all motivated and everything. But once we've contacted everybody once, we tend to drop the ball. And what we're really talking about with Cadence is we're talking about follow-up. And so let's talk about the inbound lead. I mean, the inbound lead, you need to your cadence needs to be so responsive to it, meaning that if Mark reaches out to me, I'm going to reach out immediately back to him. And if he doesn't respond, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reach out again. Now, there's a tipping point at which I'm going to become annoying to Mark. So you have to kind of balance that. And the way I balance that is not to take my foot off the gas, but to move from what is thought of as traditional follow-up to empathetic follow-up, in the sense that I'll say, Mark, I really appreciate you reaching out to me. Tried to touch base a couple of times. I realize you are extremely busy. I'm going to take the responsibility to stay in touch with you, reaching out so that when you're ready and this moves back up on your priority list, I'm right here and I'm ready to talk. And I'll move from trying to get Mark to meet with me more into a value add cadence and a visibility cadence, but I don't go away.
Now, why would I turn down a meeting with you? Come on. Why would I do that? Come on. That's not going to happen. Now, here's something that I love to do. And this comes back to the value of the information that you're sharing, the value of the questions. And this comes back to, where are you prospecting and are you staying in your lane? In other words, your ICP, your persona, your ideal customer profile. Because here's the whole thing. If you're prospecting in your lane, your industry, you have got a ton of information, ton of insights, a ton of knowledge that you can be sharing. The key is to make sure that your messages deliver one piece of valuable insight and have a clear call to action to create that next step. Now, the speed and the frequency with which you're going to follow up is going to vary based on the industry you're in, the type of person you're reaching out to, and what it is that you sell. I'll give you a quick example. If what you're selling is a consumable that people are buying on a regular basis, and the person you're reaching is basically the person who's buying every couple of days, I'm going to be reaching out to them every other day. I'm going to be reaching out to them a lot. Now, if what you're selling is a capital expenditure and you're contacting somebody much further up the food chain, I'm going to be reaching out maybe once a week, because again, you have to set your cadence based on what it is that you sell, the outcome you provide, and who the message is being delivered to. You must be getting some more messages. Hey, we got a lot of great people watching today. That's terrific.
Well, Mark, Jack Hubbard is somebody you need to connect with. He is one of my early mentors, and he is legendary in the field. So I'm so thrilled that he has piped in here today, and he loves that February is follow-up month. So I'm hoping that he's gonna spread the word. I would not be where I am today without Jack Hubbard. But let's keep going down this pipeline of let's talk cadence. The other thing that you need to realize about cadence is that you need to use multiple mediums. You need to use email. You need to use the telephone. You need to reach out on LinkedIn. You need to tap into video. People, and even if you follow the right rules, I say this very carefully, you can even use text as part of it, but understand the etiquette of text. But the point is that I need to be bumping into you in multiple places, especially with an outbound lead, especially with a cold one that I'm trying to nurture, is that, again, I'm trying to establish that relationship first, something that I know Larry Levine and Jack Hubbard are all about. But I'm trying to get that foundation of relationship so that I can begin to sell from there. And so using multiple mediums for cadence is so important.
See, here's something to think about. An outbound prospect is one that you have to appreciate. Inbound is depreciate. Now, I'll come back to inbound in a second, but let's talk about outbound, appreciate. You see, you have to appreciate the value. You have to grow the value with them So they become confident with you and you become confident with them. And the different mediums is so critical. I see so many salespeople, they rely on just email. Well, let me tell you something. You send me an email 5, 6, 7 times. And you know what? My spam filter is going to pick it up and I'm never going to hear from you or see from you again, period, because you've gone to trash. You've got to use different mediums. Think about Apple. Think about Coca-Cola. Think about the big brand names out there. They use multiple mediums with which to communicate. If they need to use multiple mediums, I have a feeling, Meridith, you and I probably need to use them too. Now, this whole thing about text messaging, it works in some industries and with some people. Again, you've got to know the lane that you're playing in. Now, let's come back and talk about that inbound depreciating value. See, depending on the industry, I may, and I do this, I get an inbound lead, and if it's in a particular industry, I call and then I immediately text the person because it's totally acceptable. Now, there's others that I don't, but it's knowing the lane and knowing the speed with which you can drive.
Well, and Mark, I think something that we're talking about that's really important too, that we probably should do an entire show on is the importance of research. I'm just sitting here thinking about a Cadence and who you talk to. My husband does not read email. At this moment, he probably has 28,000 emails in his inbox. You can text him, you can call him all day long, but he does not read email. He hates it and it irritates him. You have to understand who you're prospecting on. Gone are the days when you could just prospect. You have to intimately know things about your prospect before you get out there. Now, you may not know whether they like email or they like text but when you try different mediums, you can see what gets opened, what gets read, even if you don't get a response to it, and start to learn. I mean, if you go on LinkedIn and there's no photo on their LinkedIn profile, then that's probably not where they're spending a lot of time. But you need to be paying attention. This is certainly prospecting is about quantity, but you have to put quality in front of it. And again, in today's world, it isn't just smiling and dialing and picking up the phone. You need to be more thoughtful and just have more of a strategy and a plan.
And wow, there's something there because so many times salespeople use the communication method that they prefer most. Yeah. It's not what you prefer. It's what your customer prefers. This is why we have to show extreme dexterity at using every form of communication, including email, video, including whatever it might be to be able to reach that, because we have to reach them on their lane. The worst thing that happens is when I hear salespeople say, well, I sent them 3, 4 emails and that they didn't respond, so they must not be interested. No, you never had a conversation. It doesn't mean they're not interested. You never had a conversation. Until you have a conversation, a connection with them, you can't draw any conclusions. The only conclusion you can draw is that your messages are not resonating, period.
Yeah. Mark, we better get on to the book because we obviously are very passionate about this topic and we have probably talked longer about it than we typically expect to on Sales Logic. So what do you have on tap for us today?
Well, I've got a great book by a gentleman, good friend of ours, James Muir, and it's called The Perfect Close. And I'll tell you what, it came out a few years ago. Now you're saying the perfect close, is it nothing but closing techniques? No, it's a whole lot of information. What I like about the book is it's systematically laid out that you literally can walk through and pick up ideas that you can use. And when you read the book, if you know James Muir, you say, man, he's sitting right next to me. He's a very personable individual. And I tell you what, it's a great book. Pick it up, The Perfect Close.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I just want to say what I love about that book is that it isn't just about closing. In fact, it really captures what makes the perfect close. And if you do everything right on the front end in the sales process, the sale will close. And in the book, James just really, really sets you up for that.
Yeah. And he's a good guy. He
is a great guy.
Yeah. So anyway, hey, lightning round. Are you ready? Do you have your hand on the buzzer, Meridith?
Yes, I do.
Lightning round is best. I'll do my DJ voice. Best secret to engage a prospect. Go.
Best secrets to engage a prospect. Well, you better make it personable. You better put something in there that shows that you have done your research and shows that you have done a little homework. I'm just going to give you a great example. I did a cold reach out this morning, and in doing my research, I figured out that my prospect and I went to the same college, and I just made a connection around that and our passion for our alumni group.
Great. And I'm going to add, use multiple mediums. Don't think for a moment that you can just use email. You have to use multiple mediums.
I heard a great technique this morning. I was up early listening to our friend Luigi's podcast, and he just had a gentleman on that was speaking about cold outreach via email. And he gave a great tip that I think that I'm going to start using immediately. First, he sends an email. And then his second reach out is with, BombBomb or Vidyard. And he literally does a video on the second reach out, and he reads his first email in that second. But he said that is a powerful combination, an email backed up by a video saying the same thing.
If we're going to stay with email for a second, don't waste that first line. Hi, my name is Mark Hunter. I'd like to introduce you. Nobody cares about that. Use that first sentence. You must engage the subject line. In a prospecting email, the most valuable real estate is the subject line and the first 8 to 10 words of that email.
Yeah, don't talk about yourself. Make sure that you are talking about them. You need to have a call to action, but a respectful call to action. Don't ask for an hour of their time. Certainly don't ask them to buy something. Start small, a way that they can begin to get pulled in into you. Maybe it's 15 minutes of your time. Maybe it's for them to watch a video that you've got. But start with small calls to action.
If you're sending an email, remember the one swipe rule. If your email can't be read with one swipe on a smartphone, it's too long. Brevity wins the day.
Yeah, I've heard that it's less than 125 words to really get your message across. The other is, I got this one from Bryn Tillman, to download all my LinkedIn contacts and go in and find my 6 degrees of separation. So if I want to engage a prospect, again, I did another reach out this morning with, I had a friend of mine introduce me to 2 prospects I want to talk to, found those connections through LinkedIn, and I actually turned a cold outreach into a warm outreach.
And when you call somebody, don't hesitate to leave a voicemail, but don't leave that 30 to 40 second voicemail. I say the best voicemail is 12 to 16 seconds. Yeah, that's short. You kind of get the idea that I'm into brevity when it comes to prospecting. Yes, because you're demonstrating that you value the other person's time.
If you have, if there's some way that you can introduce yourself in a way that is not threatening to them, meaning that maybe you know their biggest pain point because of the industry they work in, and you can invite them to a webinar that you're doing, or share an article that you've written. It's a way for them to get to know the value that you can bring to the table, but in a non-threatening way. They don't have to feel like they're going to contact you to buy something.
Remember, the objective of the prospecting communication, however it is to create communication. When you do connect with them, my whole goal in that initial call is just to gain one piece of information. Just give me one piece of information, and I've got a reason that I can follow up with you again. Hey, why don't you share one more, and then I'll share one more, and we'll close it down.
Yeah, use social proof. A lot of times when I'm prospecting into an industry, and I'm cold prospecting, I always use testimonials from others in that community, and I use it really high in the email. I'll say something personable about them. I'll let them know I work a lot in the industry. I throw a testimonial up there, all within like the first 50 words of the email, because once they see that somebody else in the industry thinks I rock, then it sort of calms their fears and piques their interest to go a little bit further in.
That's why I love using a line. We've worked with a number of others in the industry to solve this issue. I love that issue. And that's the key thing. Your reputation arrives before you do. You can do all the prospecting you want, but if that little thing called Google isn't saying nice things about you, your message isn't going anywhere. Your reputation arrives before you do. Hey, we're running out of time here, so let me go ahead and start shutting it down. But I want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic this week. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. If something we've said has earned you a single dollar, consider telling a friend about our show. It's how we grow to help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical.
Okay, remember, February is sales follow-up month, and we'll see you next week with another show.
Great selling.